Hi, this is Evan with DigitalLogix Audio, and I figured I should do a catch-up video on what's been going on with this. And I think it's time. I need to do a video for the filter. I've created a dedicated snapshot bank specifically for the filter. I think I might even make a instructional for the filter because I realize that you guys don't understand what all these abbreviations mean. So let's start with the top left, and we will move to the right, and then we will jump down to here, and then move to the right. So we probably don't want a sound that moves, so... Okay, that's now a static sound. So up here on the top left is your cutoff pitch. I have it set so that the knob, when set to minimum, it is at your fundamental pitch, so the pitch that you are playing, and at maximum, it's up at your Nyquist frequency. I'm running at 44K, so it's currently at 22,050 hertz. So with this, okay, yeah, move in this way. So that's your cutoff frequency. This is your filter modulation amount knob. At 0, there's no envelope modulation. At 1, there is an envelope that goes all the way from Nyquist to the cutoff setting. Halfway would be half that difference. To the right of that, we have your resonance knob. As you can see, it goes to 1.2. Try using values less than 1. I should probably reduce that range. That was for a test, but values like 0.99 should be a lot more stable, but in some cases going up to 1.2 may be useful. So at 0 there is no resonance. With resonance you can hear the spectral peak of the filter. So this Butterworth 2 and this 248, these are both non-linear filters. As you can see, they both say non-linear. What that means is they have saturation stages placed within the filter structure set up to limit the resonance. This parameter right here is your saturator level. At low, you will not hear a resonant peak, but as I raise it, you will start to hear the resonant peak. It almost sounds like there's no resonance when I have your saturation level all the way down. But that gives a really intuitive way of limiting your resonance, and that allows, nonlinear filtering allows you to leave your resonance at super high levels, just like all the time, and you can adjust your resonance by your pre-gain or your saturator level knob. But I'll set that back to 0. So your saturator level is showing decibels at 6. Well, a nonlinear filter at low input levels behaves like a linear filter. So it's like the saturator isn't there, but as I start to engage the saturation, it starts limiting that resonant peak. So that is the whole idea with nonlinear filtering. The famous analog filters back in the day behaved in a very nonlinear manner. This adds a whole lot of character and allows for these super driven, highly resonant nonlinear filtering effects, and I love those. So these bottom two filter selections are the nonlinear ones. Okay, we are moving right on down to this knob. So this is a mode selector for the. I need to fix this order, but you can see it says linear here. This top selection offers your transpose SatL key. Above that, your 4-pole ladder filters, and above that are your 8-pole ladder filters. Sorry, let me do that with my mouse so that you can see which knob I'm changing. Okay, so you see it says transpose SatL key. That is a 2-pole filter, like it says with the mouse over information. That switches you to 4-pole, so a ladder filter, and that switches you to 8-pole. So that lets you know what's going on. As you can see, this white bar indicates that the modal selection knob is active. That lets you select which different modes of the filters you want. At 0, it gives you your low pass signal. If I move it up to 1, it gives you the band pass output of the 2-pole transpose SatL key. Above that's high pass 2. Also has the ladder modes and the 8-pole ladder modes. You can tell that those are active when that white bar is white. That'll turn black if this knob doesn't do anything. But moving on to the right, we have the pre-high pass setting. So with nonlinear filtering, you want to DC trap you want to remove all of the DC gain in your input signal, because when you send it to a saturator, that's just going to make the any DC present in the signal way worse. So the pre-high pass lets you remove DC gain and actually do some spectral shaping, because we have a limiter here. The high pass knob acts like a spectral tilt, because the limiter is compensating for the gain loss that a high pass filter causes. We can observe when I turn off the limiter by turning release all the way up. So now the limiter is not doing anything. Notice how much louder my signal gets as I turn the pre-high pass cutoff low. When I turn on the limiter, you can't tell that there's any gain loss now. The way that it does a spectral tilt is that it attenuates your lowest harmonics, which tend to be your loudest ones. If you perform some high pass filtering and then you send it through a limiter, which will turn it back up to unity gain, then your high pass cutoff brings up the high frequencies so that all of the harmonic content is closer together in amplitude. That's all because we are using this limiter. Without the limiter, this high pass trick does not work, because of the gain loss that the high pass filter causes. So this limiter right here is constantly pulling your output signal up to unity gain, even if it's really quiet. I just kind of leave this on all the time if you need to adjust it. So if you notice the sound is getting quiet. Oh, sorry, I broke the order. I'll get there. So we explained the pre-high pass cutoff. This is the it sets the cutoff for your resonance low shelf, which is a high pass filter implemented in the resonance path of each of these filters. When you have a filter that is resonating and your cutoff is anywhere near your fundamental frequency, it will compromise the intelligibility of the note you're playing, I'll just play some notes and you'll notice how boomy it sounds. Here, there we go. That's not good. We don't like all this crap. So, with the high pass that is nested in our resonance path, it allows us to filter out the low frequencies that are propagating through the resonance loop. That is what this does. You really only should need to apply a little bit of this. But you'll notice it's not resonating down here, but now it is. So this lets you choose when the filter produces this resonant peak, and determined by this parameter when it just disappears in the low end here. It gets rid of this boomy crap. Yeah, we don't like that. So that's this. You should only need to set it to like right there. Like the, oh, I forgot to mention this. The high pass filter automatically bypasses when you turn it all the way to minimum. Similarly, the resonance low shelf does the same thing. At minimum, the feature is bypassed, and at high resonance values and low cutoffs, you'll get this horrible resonating at your fundamental frequency. That's what that parameter is for, removing that boominess. That, oh, I'm in an 8-pole filter. Let's go back to a 2. So this parameter is especially important for the 4-pole filters. So with 4-pole filters, when you apply resonance, there's a whole bunch of gain reduction, and that's noticeable in the low frequencies. This is probably due to the global negative feedback, which is how the resonance is implemented. Anyways, that parameter that prevents the boominess of your filter, that removes that what causes that gain loss. So not only does it prevent the filter from booming, that boom is terrible, but it also compensates for some of this gain loss right here. There we go. You see this low frequency content? It goes down when I turn the resonance up. That the limiter is bypassed. It's not doing anything, so that gain reduction in the low end is problematic. And when you apply that, it removes the gain reduction in your low end, and it moves up towards your cutoff frequency. Moving just past that, we get to your crossfade amount. So I did a special, so I learned how to do this phase compensating when building crossover networks that allow me to use all pass filters to adjust the, in quotations, clean signal on this crossfade knob. So this is not actually all the way at minimum. This filter structure just bypasses, but at like anything that's not 0, you can see it flips on there. It applies an all pass filter that will phase shift your input signal so that the phase matches that of your low passed signal. The reason for this is that the similar phase correlation in both the filtered side of the crossfade knob and the, in quotation, clean side, it provides glue, and your ear will pick up on that similar phase correlation. So in other words, what I'm saying, I have a fancy crossfade filter here that makes it so it sounds really pretty when you use these partial crossfade positions, not all the way at one, but you can hear your input signal a little bit. What you can't really tell there is the effect that the all-pass filters are causing, but you can see that they are present when I move. This is a non-zero value, and as I sweep my cutoff, you'll see the phase shift. You can't hear it. Okay, you can kind of hear it, but anyways, that makes it so that the phase shift of your low pass side of the crossfade knob has the same phase shift as this side. I have this for the 4-pole, the 2 poles, and the 8 poles. So that glue, that phase shift that matches that of the filtered signal, that's really exotic, and that's something that they have in the stock library in the filter section for the core cells. Under filters, there are crossover filters, and you would use crossover filters when doing something like multi-band compression. And crossover filters are unique in that when you have a shared cutoff between a high pass and a low pass filter, and you add the two together, the amplitude, you have a flat amplitude response. If you were to add the low pass and high pass outputs of your standard 2-pole filter, you are going to get a notch in the middle. You are not going to get a flat amplitude response. And Linkwitz-Riley or crossover filters are designed for that purpose, so that when you have a high pass and a low pass sharing the same cutoff frequency, you can mix them both to the output, and you won't have a notch at the cutoff frequency, or you won't have a little peak of gain there. Anyways, yeah, so those are crossover filters. I have that fancy that phase compensation on all of these filter selections. So really, you only need to have the crossfade position set like there, and when you have your cutoff super low, the limiter is going to bring the sum of the two signals up to unity, and as the filtered signal gets quieter as the cutoff drops, the amplitude of the little bit of, in quotation, clean that we're routing to the output is comparatively louder. So you'll notice that you can hear it more at the end of the note. It's really the same amplitude, but as the limiter normalizes that signal, it sounds like the in quotation clean signal gets louder. Anyways, so moving on. So this was a compressor that I just hid the panel of because that's set nicely. I'm probably just going to remove this feature just to save CPU, but I just leave it right there. You can actually turn the structure off just like that, but whatever, we'll just keep on moving. So this knob right here is only active on this selection right here, the second nonlinear option. What this has is all of the nonlinear filters available in the stock reactor core library. So we're starting in the 2 poles. This is a 2-pole transpose Allen key, nonlinear. So As we turn this, it's now a 2-pole TSK NLA, and you turn it again, it gives you the NLB format for the 2-pole transpose Salin key. And if you turn it all the way to the selection past NLB, it gives you a Salin, the non-transposed, the Salin key filter, which is noticeably brighter. Anyways, just like this first selection, we're going to use this to go from 2-pole filters up to 4-pole filters. Switch this knob all the way back to nonlinear, and this is your 4-pole nonlinear ladder. That's really nice. If you turn this knob, it brings you to the NLA, the 4-pole ladder NLA. So all NLAs share this similar trait of when you overdo the saturation, even if you undersaturate it, NLAs always sound slightly distorted, and NLBs, when you overdo the saturation, the signal sounds over-dampened. So let's reduce this saturator level, and you'll notice that up here in the range where the filter should be behaving like a linear filter, it still sounds kind of distorted compared to an NLB. Okay, well, you can't. Yeah, you can really hear it there. And with the NLB, when you overdo the saturation, it gives you this over-dampened signal. Definitely over-dampened. And that has to do with how with how you make your nonlinear 1-pole filters. The 1-pole filter consists of a summation point, an input plus feedback, that connects to an integrator, which connects back to the feedback input of the just priorly mentioned input plus feedback. NLA 1-pole nonlinear filters place a saturation stage right after the integrator, and NLBs place a saturation stage before the integrator. The integrator is the low pass element within the filter. So when you are selecting NLA versus NLB, really what you're selecting is where do you want that nonlinear stage to be, before or after the integrator. Nonlinear shaping adds harmonic overtones, and I like doing that before the integrator so that we can immediately filter those extra high frequencies off. That is the NLB selection, the one that gives you the over-dampened signal when you just totally overdo the saturation. I like being able to have multiple routes to get a dark signal. In digital signal processing, we always need to be conscious of our high end and ways that we can control aliasing before it happens. So I like NLB filters. Anyways, continuing where we were, so we had the 4-pole NLA, the NLB. If you go to the farthest setting, it gives you the diode 4-pole ladder, which is similar to an NLB, but this has so many nonlinear shaping stages, and actually it has feedback paths around the saturation stages, which is super interesting, and I can't wait to go in there and give it all my extra features. But so this is like an NLB, but with additional saturation stages, so it will sound more distorted, but it will technically be over dampening. Anyways, this thing is potentially very interesting once I give it a whole bunch of additional features. So back in the day, when Moog designed his ladder filter, there were two formats that he produced. There were transistor ladders, and then there were diode ladders. And this was how the filter would control its resonance. And diode filters have this. Anyways, let me get back on topic. Yes, the diode filter is going to be very interesting. I'll be coming back to that. Continuing on here, we just went through the 4-pole ladders. Now we are going to the 8-pole ladders, returning this knob all the way to the left, which is the nonlinear selection. Continuing on, we get the NLA. Oversaturating. Switching the NLA to the NLB. Overdampen. Really overdampen. Anyways, there's nothing in this last selection, so you'll just get silence. But so moving on here, I have feedback path implemented around each of the filters. This is going to behave similar to resonance, and it can be used to augment the resonance parameter. In this one, the Butterworth 1 selection, these are linear filters that do not support a resonance feature. So you have to use feedback around the filter to get a resonance-like effect. That has the resonance low shelf and the saturators in the feedback path. So feedback will behave exactly like resonance. They are not quite the same thing. I also have all pass filters placed in the feedback paths. These selections with this all the way over to the right are the most effective phase correlations for achieving a resonant feedback feature. So this is with no resonance, using only feedback around this 8-pole ladder nonlinear. A pretty common feature of feedback around filters is this hypersensitivity up here in the range that actual resonance features can do. Anyways, feedback around the filter is not the same thing, but it can achieve a similar result, and it can be used to supercharge any resonance settings. Just a little bit of additional coloration options. Just leave this set over to the right, but you can try the 1 and 0 settings. The 2 setting, or all the way to the right in all of these selections, and all of these selections, all 4 of these, this in the 2 setting should be the most effective one, but like, just to confirm that, you can try the other ones. I don't hear that anything is happening. Okay, I guess for the 8 poles, they all sound pretty effective, but like in the 2 poles, yeah, one should be way more effective than the others, the far right position. Yeah, so that the number of all passes, just leave that at 2. That is, it provides phase compensation that phase shifts the signal in such a way that the feedback parameter gives you a more stable, resonant-like peak from the feedback around the filter. And the nonlinear shaping parameters are still active here. That can be used to complement any resonance settings for either of these, or in the Butterworth 1 selection, where resonance is not offered, doesn't do anything, you have to use feedback. That sounds great for feedback around a filter. The difference between feedback around a filter and a resonance function is that these are 0 delay feedback filters, so there is no latency through the feedback path, but around the filter there is going to be 1 unit delay of latency. So because of the delayless feedback path, the ZDF filter, the cutoff parameter is not going to get detuned, which is the cause for feedback's instability up at these high settings. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so that is an in-tune, 0 latency resonant feedback loop. That is in tune, so let's turn off the resonance and apply feedback around the filter. See that? That is caused by the 1 sample, the unit delay of the feedback around the filter. So when the 2 options are offered, resonance is going to give you the best effect, and feedback imitates resonance very, very accurately. So I will continue moving along here. Here is your envelope settings. Oh, so on the version that I have posted to the user library, I've already had these envelope displays. So it draws the envelope shape so you don't have to figure out what's going on here. It will draw what the filter or what the envelope is going to look like, which are really slick, and they've always been there since, you know, my first upload, but they were just hidden. They were just boop, like that. So I'm sorry, this part was boop, gone, but it's really been there the whole time. This one is not compatible, but because I have snapshots, I'm procrastinating rewriting all of these freaking snapshots. But anyways, I've been working on changes here. I have a whole bunch of envelope modulated effects here. I promised I would make those, and I've made those. I have tips on achieving interesting envelope modulated settings for the phase modulated formant instrument, which is not really trivial. And starting off with example 0, like each of these are, you know, very relevant to interesting sounds. This one shows you how to use modulation on your fundamental to give any arbitrary phase modulation amount movement. Without this, it sounds like, so any arbitrary phase modulation, like with static fundamental and some envelope modulation. That's useful to know how to be able to do. This was just me going in and manually layering in different phase modulation effects, and this is what I got to in the end. This one walks through feedback applications. So this is the basic sound. Let's apply some feedback to operator B. That is so colorful. The sound was more dynamic initially. That gives a less dynamic sound, but the harmonic coloration from the feedback of modulator B is the way it rings, it just sounds so wonderful. Anyway, that is the first and most simple application of feedback, feeding an operator back onto itself, or connecting its output into its phase modulation input. Anyways, I go through. I'm filling this in slowly. If you see this, this says instructional narration. If you go in here and you unhide this, I'm going to have this informational like little walkthrough where I narrate what you're supposed to be noticing going through these snapshots. Every time I make any change to the snapshots, these get, off count, and I just have to delete them all. So they are constantly getting erased. So they are usually not up to date. So I'm tired of uploading that. So I'm just going to clear all the ones that are, not up to date, so that anything that you read here is going to be instructional and giving you tips on how to achieve these sounds. Anyways, after that little walkthrough, the next one is so this instrument is called the phase modulation formant oscillators. Ironically, I rarely ever use it to make any formants, but that is what this block is in its unmodulated form. So let's actually use some formant effects. Utilizing the AM, the amplitude modulator inside gives you this vowel articulation. Actually, this one's cleaner sounding. It doesn't sound all steppy. So if you have a note that when the envelopes are all the way closed, you hear the unmodulated formant, that spectral peak, you can apply the amplitude modulation so that when your envelope closes, it lands on a particular vowel that you have set. It causes these "ai" sounding envelope modulations. I think these are the most interesting. A quick little reminder of what the amplitude modulator does. It just takes the spectral peak from the formant right there and applying amplitude modulation to it, splits the one peak into two spectral peaks. And as you increase number of H, they get farther apart, and the lower one will reflect off 0 Hertz and then start crawling back up the spectrum. You see it just started crawling back upwards a little bit. You can also do this to get further. You see as I go further and further up, this one has already reflected off of 0 Hertz. Anyways, that's the vowel motion right there. I'll get more vowel-y sounds, but that's really just not that high of a priority on my list of things to do. So it would be worth me pointing out that when applying phase modulation, let's turn that off. All of the, I will switch to this display because it makes it a little easier to see what's going on. So any spectral content that comes from phase modulation will materialize outwards from the formant. Let me show you what I mean by that. Reduce those envelope modulation amounts so it doesn't do that anymore. Okay, so I will apply modulation. You will see the harmonic content spread outwards. All phase modulation appears like that. It comes outwards from the formant peak. When the formant peak is all the way down here at 1, it's as if you have that set to 0, and this is just so interesting. Utilizing the ring modulation of these knobs here on the right. Anyways, yeah, that's a more complicated, or the next step up in complication, having one operator modulating another operator, which is modulating it back. So as you apply feedback, you are adding spectral content to the signal that is modulating the signal you're hearing. So that feedback modulates the signal, adding harmonic content, which modulates your signal, adding harmonic content. You know, continue on infinitely. That's how you get all this super bright high end from these cross modulation settings. So when I have these noisy sounds, let's face it, it's inevitably going to be filtered. I actually made this really capable filter right here. I changed the name to small filter but powerful because the last one was labeled simple filter. Simple panel. Simple. I rebuilt my filter from scratch, so small filter but powerful. That's a much more accurate name. Let's make this small again. I'll be uploading to the user library. I'm constantly changing this, but I want... You are not supposed to... Oh, something is... You. Go away. I want my nice clean panel. Much better. Oh, crap. I think people are really going to appreciate having these envelope displays here because now they don't really have to think about, they don't have to interpret the values to figure out what the envelope is doing. This will draw it out for them so that they can see it. And yeah, I'm just still continuing to work on this. Sorry it's taking so long. Yes, I am still working on the blocks version. That is still coming. I promise it's still coming. I'm considering uploading a newer version of this project, which I definitely will be doing, and like 2 or 3 other projects to the user library. I've only uploaded one file, one project, this thing, to the user library, and I have 2 or 3 other projects that I think are of a similar quality of interestingness. So, thanks for your interest in this project. This is Evan with Digilogix Audio, and giving you an update on my progress on this phase modulated formants snapshot banks. And I walked through the operation of a filter. I'm going to hide this thing. I don't want to see it. So, cutoff, envelope modulation amount, resonance, pregain, and saturator. These are only relevant on the nonlinear filters. This selects 2-pole, 4-pole, 8-pole. The modal knob, when the white bar is lit up, lets you change your modal selection, so you can change low pass, band pass, high pass, notch, peak, all from the one filter. The ladders have their own selections, and the 8 poles also have their own unique selections. Pre-high pass cutoff, resonance low shelf, cutoff, crossfade amount. Don't forget about my phase compensation, all passes on this crossfade value. It glues the clean, in quotation, clean side of this crossfade to the dirty side, because both sides share the phase shift that the low pass filter, the filtered side of this crossfade, exhibits, and that glues the content. Compressor, don't worry about it. This is only relevant on this last selection. It selects from the stock library, the nonlinear, the NLA, and the NLB versions of your 2-pole, 4-pole, and 8-pole filters. There is a setting all the way past NLB, because that kind of changes depending on the pole count of your filter. I just didn't acknowledge it here, but there is a 4th setting. Feedback is like resonance. It's nonlinear, and it's a feedback loop around the filter blocks, which does have a unit delay of latency, so it imitates resonance, but it will never be as good as these 0 delay feedback resonance path filters. Anyway, I feel like I'm losing my voice. Thanks for your interest in this project. I'm working on the blocks, and I will be uploading. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.